Leo stood before the gold-framed mirror in his Manhattan penthouse, tightening his silk tie while practicing a confident smirk for his boss and a humble gaze for his team. Every mask was perfect, yet as the room grew quiet, he looked deep into his own reflection and suddenly froze. In that heavy stillness, he realized he had spent so long adapting to everyone else's colors that he could no longer remember his own. What he once called his greatest strength, his adaptability, had quietly become his own private prison. In the glass towers of Wall Street, Leo was a wolf. He sharpened his voice and calculated his moves with cold precision. His colleagues watched him in awe, seeing a man made of steel who never faltered under pressure. "He belongs here," they whispered, impressed by his sharp edges. But as the city lights flickered on, Leo would walk into a quiet cafe in Brooklyn to meet his artist friends. Suddenly, the wolf was gone. He loosened his tie, spoke of abstract dreams, and became a soul in search of beauty. To them, he was a kindred spirit, a dreamer who understood the unspoken rhythm of the heart. On the weekends, Leo drove to the quiet suburbs. Sitting at his parents' dinner table, he was the picture of the perfect, traditional son. He listened more than he spoke, his hands folded with respect, embodying the values of an old world. Leo was like the most skillful chameleon in the forest. He took pride in this gift, believing that being adaptable was the ultimate secret to surviving the modern world. If the background was green, he became green. If it turned blue, he was blue. He could fit into any room and speak any language. He was everyone's favorite version of himself. He was winning every game he played. But in the quiet moments between the masks, a strange, hollow feeling began to grow. He was becoming everything to everyone, yet he was starting to feel like nothing to himself. The grand ballroom was filled with the clinking of crystal and the hum of 100 different lives. Leo stood right in the center, a glass of dark red wine in his hand. But for the first time in his life, he felt a cold wave of panic. To his left, his CEO clapped him on the shoulder. "Leo, tell these investors how we crushed the competition." To his right, his old friends from the art gallery waved. "Leo, come join us. We're discussing the soul of the city." And standing right in front of him was Sarah, his partner, looking at him with deep confusion. "Leo, you've changed your tone 3 times in 5 minutes. Which one of these people is actually you?" The chameleon was failing. He tried to sharpen his voice for the boss, then soften it for his friends, then find a middle ground for Sarah. But the masks were switching too fast. His heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. The colors were blurring together into a messy, suffocating gray. He felt like he was disappearing into the very air of the room. Suddenly, his hand trembled. The glass slipped. A splash of deep red wine exploded across his snow-white shirt. The room went silent. Everyone stared at the stain. It was a bright, violent red. The only color Leo couldn't hide. The only color he couldn't change to match the background. I have to go," he whispered. He didn't wait for an answer. He pushed through the crowd, ignored the calling voices, and ran out into the night. He didn't stop until the noise of the party was replaced by the heavy, rustling silence of Central Park. He sat on a cold stone bench, shivering, staring at the red stain on his chest. He had spent his whole life trying to fit in, but now he felt completely and utterly alone. The shadows of the trees were deep and still. Leo sat on the stone bench with his head in his hands, the red stain on his shirt looking like a wound in the moonlight. Suddenly, a soft rustling sound came from a few feet away. An old gardener was kneeling by a flower bed, carefully pruning a hedge. Without looking up, the old man spoke. His voice was steady and warm, like a familiar melody. "Are you trying to turn into the color of the night just to disappear, young man?" Leo looked up, startled. He didn't know how to answer. The elder reached into his wooden toolbox and pulled out a small jar of white paint and a fallen autumn leaf. He handed them to Leo. "Paint it white," the old man said simply. Leo stared at the leaf, then at the gardener. "Why? Why would I want to erase the natural color of the leaf?" The old man smiled gently. "You think the leaf is only itself because it is green. But look, the seasons change. It turns yellow, then brown, then it falls. The color is just a dress it wears. It is not the leaf itself." He sat down beside Leo. "A chameleon thinks it is safe because it can blend into the forest. It becomes the tree, the rock, the sand. It is a master of survival. But if that same chameleon stands on a mirror, it will go mad. It will keep changing and shifting, trying to find its own reflection, only to realize it has no color of its own to show." Leo felt a lump in his throat. It was as if the old man was looking directly into his soul. "Adaptability is a tool for survival," the elder continued, "but it is not a way to live. Think of your life like a canvas. If you don't have a solid white background, a core that stays the same no matter where you are, then you are just a shadow of other people's expectations. Without that white canvas, every color you paint on yourself is just a lie. You aren't being flexible, Leo. You are being empty." Leo looked down at the white paint. The heavy, suffocating pressure in his chest began to lift. He realized that in his hurry to be everything to everyone, he had forgotten to be someone to himself. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel lonely. It felt like a clean, white page, waiting for him to finally write his own story. Leo stood up, the red stain still on his chest, but his eyes were finally clear. He didn't need a mask to feel safe anymore. He realized that while being adaptable is a talent, being honest with yourself is a virtue. From today's short story, we learn that the world doesn't need another copy of what everyone else wants. It needs your original color, even if it doesn't match the crowd. Your true self is the only thing that can never be replaced. Today, try saying no to something you don't truly like, just to find your own voice again. Like this video if you are also on a journey to find your true self. Until our next lesson, stay calm, stay true, and remember, do not lose yourself in the colors of others.